Underneath it all, a journey through self-doubt. Hey there, listeners. Welcome to today's episode, where we're diving into something we've all wrestled with at some point: self-doubt. That little voice in your head that whispers, "Are you sure you can do this?" Or "What if you fail?" It's universal, it's human, and it can feel like a heavy weight holding you back. But here's the thing: self-doubt isn't just a roadblock. It's also a signal, a teacher, and sometimes even a guide. So let's unpack it together. We'll explore where self-doubt comes from, what science says about it, how it shows up in our lives, and, most importantly, how we can work with it, not against it. Grab a comfy seat, maybe a notebook, and let's get started. Segment 1. What is self-doubt? So, what exactly is self-doubt? At its core, it's that feeling of uncertainty about your abilities, decisions, or worth. It's the moment you hesitate before sending that email, applying for that job, or speaking up in a meeting because you're worried you're not good enough. It's not just a fleeting thought. It can feel like a whole internal monologue looping through worst-case scenarios. Self-doubt often sneaks in when we're stepping outside our comfort zone. Maybe you're starting a new project, or maybe you're just trying to get through a tough day. That voice pipes up, questioning your every move. And while it can feel like an enemy, self-doubt is part of being human. It's tied to our survival instincts. Our brains are wired to avoid risk, to keep us safe. But in a world where risks aren't always life or death, that wiring can hold us back from growth. Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. Socrates, the ancient Greek thinker, famously said, "I know that I know nothing." That's not just humility. It's an acknowledgement that doubt is part of the quest for wisdom. In modern times, we might call it imposter syndrome, where even the most accomplished people feel like frauds. Ever heard of Maya Angelou? She wrote 11 books, won countless awards, and still said, "I have written 11 books, but each time I think, oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody." If she felt self-doubt, you know it's universal. So let's pause for a second. When was the last time self-doubt crept up on you? Maybe it was a big moment, like a career change, or something small, like wondering if your joke landed at a party. Hold that moment in your mind as we dive deeper. Segment 2. The science behind self-doubt. Alright, let's put on our science hats for a minute. Self-doubt isn't just a feeling, it's got roots in how our brains work. Neuroscientists say it's tied to the amygdala, that part of your brain that's like an overzealous security guard, always scanning for threats. When you're about to take a risk, like speaking in public or asking for a raise, the amygdala lights up, pumping out stress hormones like cortisol. That's why self-doubt can make your heart race or your palms sweat. It's your brain saying, "Danger. What if you mess this up?" But here's the fascinating part. Self-doubt can also be a sign of intelligence. A study from Cornell University explored something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It found that people with lower competence often overestimate their abilities, while those with higher skills tend to underestimate themselves. In other words, the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. So that self-doubt you're feeling? It might just mean you're self-aware. There's also a psychological angle called the inner critic. This is that voice that picks apart everything you do. Psychologists say it often comes from early experiences. Maybe a teacher who was too harsh, a parent with high expectations, or even a culture that prizes perfection. Over time, those external voices become internal, and suddenly you're your own toughest critic. But here's the good news. Your brain is adaptable. Neuroplasticity means you can rewire those thought patterns. By practicing self-compassion or challenging negative thoughts, you can turn down the volume on that inner critic. We'll get to some practical tips later. But first, let's talk about a story that brings self-doubt to life. Segment 3. Stories of self-doubt. Let me share a story from my own life. A while back, I was offered a chance to lead a big project at work. Something I'd been dreaming of. But the moment I said yes, self-doubt crashed in like an uninvited guest. "You're not ready," it said. "You're going to mess this up, and everyone will see you're a fraud." I spent nights over-preparing, second-guessing every decision. One day, I confessed my fears to a colleague, expecting her to agree I was in over my head. Instead, she laughed and said, "You're nervous because you care. That's why you're the right person for this." That hit me hard. My self-doubt wasn't a sign I was failing. It was a sign I was invested. Then there's a bigger story, one you might have heard. J.K. Rowling, before she was the Harry Potter legend, faced rejection after rejection from publishers. She's talked openly about battling self-doubt, especially as a single mom struggling to make ends meet. She once said she felt like a failure, but she kept writing because it was her lifeline. Imagine if she'd let self-doubt win. Millions of readers would have missed out on Hogwarts. Her story reminds us that self-doubt doesn't have to be the end of the road. It can be a detour to something incredible. I'd love to hear your stories, listeners. When has self-doubt held you back or pushed you forward? Drop us a message, we might share it in a future episode. For now, let's explore how self-doubt shows up across different contexts. Segment 4. Self-doubt in different contexts. Self-doubt doesn't look the same for everyone. It's shaped by culture, gender, and even the stage of life you're in. In some cultures, like collectivist ones in East Asia, self-doubt might manifest as a fear of letting the group down. In individualistic places like the US, it's often about personal failure or not measuring up to society's hustle culture. Gender plays a role too. Studies show women are more likely to experience imposter syndrome, partly because of societal pressures and biases. A 2020 study in the Journal of Vocational Behavior found that women in STEM fields often doubt their competence more than their male peers, even when their performance is equal. It's not just personal, it's systemic. Age matters too. Young people might doubt themselves as they navigate new careers or relationships. Older adults might face self-doubt about staying relevant or adapting to change. And then there's the digital age. Social media can amplify self-doubt like nothing else. Scrolling through curated lives on X or Instagram can make you feel like everyone else has it together while you're just faking it. But here's the thing. Self-doubt isn't always the enemy. It can keep you humble, push you to improve, or make you double-check your work. The trick is knowing when it's helping and when it's holding you back. Segment 5. The challenges of self-doubt. Let's get real. Self-doubt can be paralyzing. It's not just a fleeting thought. It can stop you from taking risks or chasing dreams. I've seen friends pass up opportunities, jobs, relationships, creative projects, because they didn't feel ready or worthy. And I get it. Self-doubt feels safe, like a shield against failure. But it's also a cage. There's also the comparison trap. You see someone on X posting about their latest promotion or perfect vacation, and suddenly you're questioning your entire life. Psychologists call this social comparison theory, and it's a self-doubt supercharger. The truth? Most people are doubting themselves too, they're just not posting about it. Another challenge is when self-doubt becomes a habit. Cognitive behavioral therapy talks about automatic negative thoughts, those knee-jerk beliefs that you're not good enough. Over time, they can erode your confidence, making it harder to take action. And when you don't act, you reinforce the doubt. It's a vicious cycle. But here's the flip side. Self-doubt can be a catalyst. It can push you to work harder, learn more, or seek feedback. The key is balance, using doubt as a motivator without letting it take the wheel. Segment 6. Taming self-doubt. So how do we deal with self-doubt? It's not about eliminating it, good luck with that, but learning to coexist with it. Here are some practical strategies to try. Name the doubt. Give that inner critic a name, like Debbie Downer or Grumpy Gus. Sounds silly, but it helps you see the voice as separate from you, not the truth. Challenge the thoughts. When self-doubt says, "You'll fail," ask, "What's the evidence?" Then there's none. Flip it. "What's the evidence I could succeed?" Take small steps. Self-doubt loves big, scary goals. Break them down. Want to start a business? Start with a single email or a small task. Action builds confidence. Practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself like you'd talk to a friend. If your bestie was doubting themselves, you wouldn't say, "Yeah, you're probably right." You'd lift them up. Do the same for yourself. Seek perspective. Talk to someone you trust. Sometimes an outside view, like my colleague's comment about caring, can shift everything. Try one of these this week, listeners. Pick one strategy and see how it feels. You don't have to silence self-doubt. You just have to keep moving through it. Segment 7. The power of moving forward. Here's the thing about self-doubt. It's not going away. Even the most successful people feel it. But what sets them apart is they act anyway. There's a term in psychology called self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle challenges. You build it by doing hard things even when you're scared. Think about a time you pushed through self-doubt. Maybe you gave that presentation, asked someone out, or tried something new. Even if it didn't go perfectly, you probably felt stronger afterward. That's the secret. Action doesn't just overcome doubt, it transforms it. Let's end with a story from a listener. Jamie wrote in about auditioning for a community theater play. They were terrified, convinced they'd bomb. But they went for it, shaky voice and all. They didn't get the lead role, but they got a part. And more importantly, they gained confidence. Now Jamie's hooked on theater and says self-doubt still shows up, but it's not the boss anymore. That's the takeaway, folks. Self-doubt is part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to define you. It's like a passenger in your car. You can let it sit there, but don't let it drive. Thanks for joining me today. I hope this episode gave you some tools, some perspective, and maybe a little courage to face your own self-doubt. If you've got a story or a tip, share it with us. We'd love to hear it. Until next time, keep moving forward, one brave step at a time.